Hey guys, it's Ollie from the Java Hub, and this is going to be your 16th beginner's Java tutorial, and it's going to be how to make Java create a file and then write stuff to it. And this is going to be a continuation of my last one, so if you haven't seen that, go and watch it. And also, we're going to be using stuff that I did in my tutorial, basic user input or something like that. It's in the Java Absolute Beginners playlist, so go check that out. And what we're going to be doing is getting the user's name and age, and then we're going to be writing it to a file. And I'm going to show you how to do that from start to finish, and we're also going to be learning about something called the try and catch block. So first things first, we're going to create some variables, and they're both going to be strings, and they're going to be called name and age. And the reason we don't do age as an integer is because it creates some funny characters when we try and write it to our file, so let's just keep them as strings. Doesn't really make much of a difference. So now we're gonna say make a new scanner object, scanner, and we'll import that scanner, and this is going to be for user input, and it's equal to a new scanner, and we want to scan, if I can put my brackets, scanner system.in. And now that we can handle user input, we're ready to make some prompts. System out.println, and we're just going to say what is your name, and then we're going to say name is equal to input, which is our scanner object, and then .next, and that's the next thing that the user types. We're then going to say system out println, and the reason I'm rushing through this is because we've done this previously. What or and how old are you, comma, and then plus name, and then name, or rather age, is equal to input.next, and that gets the next thing they type. So now that we've done this, we can write to our file, and to do this we're going to need to create a try and catch block, and I'm going to show you what it looks like first, then I'm going to explain why. And to try, we just write try and then open a block, and at the end of it we write catch, and with some parentheses, and then we open a block. And as a parameter we say what do we want to catch, and we want to catch any exceptions or errors, and that's going to be called exception E. And let me just show you how to do one more thing, then I'll explain it again. We're going to print out, if there are any errors, we're going to say system.error.print, dang it, can't spell today, print line, and then we're going to print e.getMessage, and that gets the error message. So now I'll explain what the try and catch block do. Is basically, if there is something you need to do which could cause unhandled exceptions, you need to put them in a try and catch block. And the reason is Java won't just run it no matter what, it's going to try it first, and it's kind of like a mini compiler within the compiler. Well, it's not really, but that's just kind of analogy for you. It's kind of like a mini error catcher within your compiler. It's going to try this and catch any errors if there are any errors, and we need to do this for this little project because we could have an error such as the file not being found, or it was unable to write the file because maybe it's a protected location or something like that. But all we're going to need to write the file is two objects. One of them is a file writer, which creates the file, and the other one is a buffered writer, which writes content to the file. So we'll just jump right into it. We'll make a file writer object, and we'll import it, and this is going to be called fw, and it's equal to a new file writer, and as a parameter, where do we want to write the file? We're going to do it to the desktop, so c/users/oliver/desktop, and we'll call it, say, details.text. And now we can create our second object, which is a buffered writer, and that is buffered writer. And we're going to call this object, after we import it, we're going to call it out, so we're kind of just saying, like, output this to the file, and then that is equal to a new buffered writer. There we go. And as a parameter, what do we want to buffered write, I guess? I don't really know the past tense, but we want to say we want to buffer our file writer, which is FW, and that is simple as. And it's just occurred to me that you guys are probably quite beginners, and if this doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to break it down to the very basics. We're creating an object of something called a file writer, and this is a built-in Java class which creates files, and we simply create a new object of it, and as the parameter we say where and what do you want the file to be, and that is taken as a string. And then we've created something called a buffered writer, and it's got a fancy name, but it's basically all it does is write text and content to the file. And we've named this out, and you'll see why in a second. And as a parameter, it takes where do you want to write this stuff, where do you want to write the content to, I guess, and that is FW, which is our file writer. So it's going to create the file, then it's going to write stuff to it after we tell it to, and we're going to tell it to do that now. We can say out, which is our buffered writer object, and then we can say .write, and this is going to write stuff to it. And we'll first of all write a string saying name, and then we'll put a colon and a space, and below it you can say out.write, and write is a built-in method, and then we'll write our name string. So really simple. Out, we've accessed our buffered writer object, and then we've accessed the built-in method of the buffered writer, which is write. And first of all, we've written the string name, and then we've added the name that the user entered just earlier, and then we'll do the exact same for the age, out.write, and we'll call it, say, age, and then out.write, and then age. There we go. So we've written the string name, printed out the name, we've written the string age, printed out the age, and actually we're going to put a new line between this, and to do this we access our buffered writer and say new line, and that's pretty simple as well. And the last thing we need to do is close our buffered writer, because we don't want it to be sort of open and active forever, so we say out.close. Oh my goodness, close. There we go. Now that is pretty much it, guys, for our code. I'll show you it in action in a second, but let me explain one more time. This is pretty self-explanatory. We've created a string called name and age, made a scanner object, and prompted the user to enter their name and age. And then in our try and catch block, again, the reason we use this is because we need to catch any errors, such as file writing errors. And we've just printed the message that there is. We've then created a new file. We've then created a new file by making our file writer object, and then it creates this file here. And we've made a new buffered writer which writes content to our file, and as a parameter we put what file, which is our file writer object, which is FW, and then all of this here is just what we are writing to the file, and that's, we've said name and then the name, then we've done a new line, we've said age and then the age, and then we've closed it. And if there are any errors, which there won't be in this little project, but if there were errors it would catch them. And now I'm going to run this and show you it work. So hit run. It says, what is your name? Ollie. How old are you? 16. And watch when I hit enter. Watch over here. It's going to make the new file. Ah, right. That's embarrassing. I spelt desktop wrong. It should be... Let me bring this over here. Desk with a K. That was embarrassing. Anyways, let's try this again. Ollie, and 16. And as you can see, details, it's just created a brand new file over here. We can double click on it, and as you can clearly see, it's done exactly what we intended it to do, and that is create the file and then write the content to it. So that is pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Nearly at the 10-minute limit, so please subscribe. Head over to the forums, create an account there, ask any questions there you may have. Also, just ask any questions in the comments. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please message me or comment if there's anything confusing you. And anyway.